We send 1.5 million emails every month across our clients. We helped CGS team generate over 500K in pipeline in 90 days, and Parallel closed their first deal for 180K a year, who was a cold audience before they reached out. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the lessons we've learned from sending over 1.5 million emails every single month. And these are the things you can only learn when you've got 10 companies running at the same time, so you can compare what works and what doesn't across different industries. So let's dive into it. Lesson 1, you're only reaching 5 to 10% of your market. Most B2B companies have over 10,000 companies in their TAM. At any given moment, only 3 to 5% of your market is ever looking to buy, look for a solution, or change what they're currently doing. So with a 10,000 TAM, that's 300 to 500 companies looking directly for what you have to offer. But most companies will target the same 2,000 obvious accounts as everyone else in their market. So if we run the numbers, 3% of 2,000 is 60 potential buyers. Reach half of those and close them, you're getting 30 conversations. Meanwhile, there's 240 other companies ready to buy that have never even heard of you. This is not a volume problem, this is not a copy problem, it's a coverage problem. Now, step 1 with what we do is, across all of our clients, we start by mapping their TAM as step 1. Now, why? Because we need to know how many companies there are out there now, so we can start to plan out how we're going to reach out to those and convert those into conversations and therefore into closed clients. So you can try and refine your copy, your offer and everything else to 2,000 accounts, or you can just send to 10x the number of people and therefore get 10x the results. Email only gets 60 to 70% coverage across an entire market. And that's because you have to clean that data to ensure that those people are still working at that company, that they have a valid email that can receive those emails and not go into the spam. So our process is, do they have a valid email? We're going to email them. If we can't get a valid email, can we get a valid phone number? If so, we're going to ring them. And if we can't get a valid email or a phone number, then we're going to get them on LinkedIn. And we're going to prioritize those people on LinkedIn by the people who have been active in the last 30 days to ensure that our connection response rates are higher than everyone else on the market. So that's how we get 100% market coverage. No one slips through the net, and we make sure that we get all of the people that you'd ever want to speak to covered every single 45 days. So your competitors are not fighting with you over your entire market. They're focusing on the same 5 to 10% as everyone else, the ones that have posted a job post or a funding signal on LinkedIn. And guess what? You're lost in the sea of noise and competing with everyone else in your market. With our approach, you're no longer competing. You're going to position yourself as a market of one, standing out from your competition and not lost in the same sea of noise. So you're in the inbox before people even post about their issues on LinkedIn. And once you understand the coverage problem, the next thing most people get completely backwards is your list quality matters more than your copy. See, teams will spend weeks refining subject lines, reply rate barely moves, and then they go back to the copy and say, okay, how can we squeeze an extra 0.1% reply rate out of this? But in reality, your list was the problem in the first place. So let me just tell you about an internal test that we did. List A was built with a full research stack, and List B was a standard Apollo export. Okay, so the List A produced a 4.3x reply rate versus the same copy to the same list based out of Apollo. Now, if you want a pro tip and you are using Apollo, start with companies. They are free to export that no one really uses, and then you can enrich the people from there. So there are 6 ICP layers that you will dive into when most people will stop at layer 2. So number 1 is firmographic. Okay, so how big is that company? What industry are they in? What geography? And everyone does this. It's pretty basic. Then we'll go into technographic. So, okay, what technology are these people using? Are they using a specific SaaS, a specific CRM? Does that help you in terms of refining that so you can talk about that and understand their pain points of using that? But then we dive into more layers. So the next one is growth signals. So are they hiring more SDRs? Are they going through a huge growth plan right now? And if they are, then guess what? They're probably going to have problems associated with that growth that they're seeing. The next one is pain signals. So do they have open roles in relevant departments? Are they making public statements? Is there anything changing in the market or around their competitors that you could use to therefore get your foot in the door with that person? And then there's the decision-making title. That's all about the right title, right authority, not the influencer, but the actual buyer. That's one thing we always do with our clients, that we don't want to speak to influencers. We want to speak to decision makers so we can shorten that sales cycle and make sure that you're only speaking to the right person at the right time. And then the last one is timing triggers. So what matters right now that makes this a priority for that specific company? Is it that there's a new environmental clause came in that they need to action before the end of the year that one of my clients is currently working on now? If so, then that's easy urgency that you can put into your message of why they need to act now and why they should be on the phone with you. Now, let me just dive into AI personalization, because this is obviously a hot topic and everyone's using Clay to say, hey, I saw your post on LinkedIn about your dog. Now, AI personalization does work and it does have its own use case. It does make your email stand out as one of one and look like you've researched that person. But I would use something called inferred research, which is you're talking about saving someone time so they can spend more time on this. Now, this is based on their company, their role, and what you know about that person. That adds value, but whether you're saying, I saw your post about your college basketball game for your daughter, that makes no difference to someone. And it's so competitive now in terms of AI personalization with all of the tools like Claude Code and everything else, that you are in the same sea of noise as everyone else. You do not stand out, and you need to be direct, to the point, and make these people know that you are conversion focused and have something that's of value to them. Okay, so now you've got the right market, you've got the right list. Now, this is where most people throw it all away. See, every cold email course says the same thing. 7 touches, follow up until they say yes or no, persistence pays off. But here's what we found from sending over 5 million emails. 67% of all positive replies come from email 1, and then 22% of all positive replies come from email 2. So email 3 through to email 7 combined is about 11%. Just to give you context of what that means, that's around 80 to 90% of your positive replies coming from email 1 and email 2. So why would you send any more than that? See, every unreplied email leaves a train to your provider that says, okay, this person's sending emails and they're not getting opened, they're not getting replied, and therefore gives you a bad sender reputation, which therefore results in your infrastructure disintegrating before your very eyes without you even knowing about it. Deliverability degrades slowly, but then picks up over time the more that you train the algorithm in Gmail or Outlook to know that no one's reading your emails and no one's responding. So future emails to your prospects, when you are sending it to the right person and it is email 1, then land in the spam. And not because anything those prospects did, just because you've burned your domain reputation and trained the people who you're sending emails to go to the spam because you're sending useless emails. Now, even better yet, let's just say that you do reply to someone 6 times. Every time they see that thread of unreplied emails, they're just getting reminded of why you've been annoying them and why they didn't reply in the first place. So if you send 1 to 2 emails, you're testing interest rather than annoying people. You'd be surprised at how many people I speak to who say, yes, I have blocked this person, or I'll always remember that person's name because they replied to me 8 or 9 times and I reported them to spam. Versus if you send them 1 to 2 emails, they're never going to remember you if they're not interested now, but your job is to land in the inbox when the priorities change. See, clients who are at 60 to 70% of inbox placement, when they switched from 7 email sequences to 2 email sequences, went to 95% plus. And that just means that your infrastructure and deliverability is one of the bigger drivers of your success. So just to come back to the model, 2 emails every 45 days, you're testing interest, you're not annoying people. And when you do come back to them when the priorities have changed, you are using a fresh angle based on the data that you've just got from your previous 45-day cycle to therefore use that to further drive your results. So you start with 10 angles, you find 3 that work. Now you create more of those 3 winners, so you can double down on what's working and get better results out of that same market, that you therefore have marketing that you've proven works and gets responses. So the person who ignored you in January but is urgently looking in March because new budget or the CEO is breathing down their neck is now waiting for your email, and you're landing in spam because you're sending people a 10 email sequence. See, you can't control timing, but you can control coverage and consistency. This is why the 45-day cycle works. It's not repetition, it's consistency. So you're covering your market, your list is clean, and you're not burning your emails with 7 follow-ups. Now let's talk about the thing that almost no one gets right. See, when the reply rate drops, teams rewrite the copy. New subject lines, new openers, new AI tools. In most audits, the messaging is fine and that's not what's driving it. The infrastructure is the problem. A copy problem shows up immediately and an infrastructure compounds silently over weeks until it's catastrophic. By the time the reply rates drop enough to notice, the cause is already months old and you've already lost sight of it. So what separates agencies that deliver versus agencies that burn your domain? So it's all about domain to inbox ratios. So depending on what provider you're using, if you're using Gmail, the max you want to have on a domain is 3 inboxes. Now, if you're looking at Outlook, for say, then you might have up to 100. Some people will even choose 50 if they're being a bit more conservative. Now, what does that mean? On Gmail, you can send more emails per inbox. You can send up to 30. I personally would cap that at 15 to 20 just for longevity. And then on Microsoft, you can send up to 5 per inbox. So if you have 100 inboxes, that's 500 per domain. domain per day. If you're on Gmail and you're using 30 per day, you're going 9 per domain per day. Always use dedicated domains. So you'd be surprised how many people I speak to, they're sending cold outbound and they're sending it from their root domain. Whether or not that's HubSpot as their CRM, they're using their domain that is their website to send these emails, and that is a recipe for disaster. Let's say you invoice a client, it goes to their spam, they don't see it, you can't close that deal, you can't collect that cash because no one's ever going to see your email. They're not fishing your payment reminders out of the spam box, are they? Now, in terms of warm up, I would always say a minimum of 2 weeks. The longer you can do, the better. If you can get to 3 to 4 weeks of warm up and still manage to start sending after that because you have the time, then do that because your longevity and your results will be consistently better over time. Now, one of the things we're currently testing in our agency is cycling inboxes. So we have 3 sets with every single client. We have set A, set B, and set C. On week 1, set A sends, on week 2, set B sends, and then set C is a backup. So we go week 1, A, week 2, B, week 3, A, week 4, B, and then C is there in case anything happens to either of those sets. So then we're not getting an outage when we do have burned infrastructure, which happens in every single campaign. Whether you like it or not, at some point, no matter what, you will have to replace that infrastructure. It's just part of the game. It's all about being prepared for that. Now, one of the other things that a lot of people don't do is you see your bounce rate spike and you have no idea why, and therefore you just ignore it. Now you need to be looking into the different bounce codes and what they mean. So you can easily do that by going into your sequencer, whether that's Instantly, Smart Lead, Email Bison if you're there, and going into those different bounces and seeing, is it a soft bounce? Is it a hard bounce? Is it an invalid address? And then look into the root cause of that to see, okay, is it your list that's causing this or is it something else? So here's a buyer evaluation frame, 3 questions to ask any outbound partner before you sign with them. So what are you using for sending? Do you use our primary domain or do you use dedicated outbound domains with a separate infrastructure? What does your inbox to domain ratio look like and how do you consistently manage that? And how do you monitor delivery on a week-to-week basis? Now, if they start fretting at this point and have no answers to this, then it's usually a red flag. If they're using your root domain to do that, then please stay away from it. Infrastructure keeps your emails landing in the inboxes. What happens after they land is the next mistake that happens. So human qualification is what turns volume into pipeline. Agencies optimize for messages booked. Client gets 50 calls a month, 80% of the wrong person, no authority, no budget, no timing. Close rate tanks, sales team are burnt out. They're wasting their time on calls with someone who never wants to speak to them. Client cancels at the end of month 3, agency blames the market, and then I'm on a call with someone else saying that I've been burned before. It happens all the time. So meetings booked is a vanity metric if the calendar is full of people who can't make a decision. And this is where the paper meeting, paper lead model falls down at times because people have the wrong incentives, because if they get you all of the meetings in the world and they're unqualified, then it's a waste of time. So here's our 4-point qualification framework to walk through. So the ICP match. We start by doing an onboarding form, so we have this in black and white, so we can easily say, does this match or does it not? The decision maker verification, so okay, does this person have the authority to make a decision? And do they have the budget authority in order to unlock that spend for the service? Problem relevance, do they have the problem right now or are they just making an inquiry? And engagement signals, is it genuine interest or is it just curiosity? Something that is non-negotiable is that AI categorizes any positive replies as soon as they come into the inbox, and then a human decides. Now you need that AI to do that because we need to respond to all of our emails in less than 5 minutes. So that then decides whether or not it's positive on the first front. We still check the other ones either way, and then we have a hot lead. Now that's when a human takes over and makes a decision to say, okay, does this person actually have interest? AI can't tell whether someone's being sarcastic, has the wrong tone. You'd be surprised at how many sarcastic positive responses we get that are just someone who's sick of receiving emails, which does happen from time to time, right? Now AI would book that call and therefore that would be a waste of time and you would get a bad call as a result. The person's just never going to show up. You're going to waste time in your sales team calendar. So every single reply at least that shows goes through a human operator before it even touches the calendar. Igor from Paralect, one of our existing clients, mentioned that when he was looking at our emails, it actually felt like an expert reaching out to a potential client rather than just a bot. And that's our human judgment in the reply layer process that a lot of people miss out on. They'll outsource this to someone in, let's say, India, where they are not replying to these emails effectively. Now, John from LawTech said, I would much prefer 3 or 4 meetings every month that hit all the mark than 20 where I have to go through 20 meetings and only 3 or 4 are actually relevant. Now, that's the exact thing that we're looking to do for our clients. So right person, right budget authority, right ICP. Now, consistency beats volume and outbound is a quarterly game. Month 1, great results. Everyone's excited. Month 2, slows down. Month 3, pipeline dries up. Team questions the channel. Outbound gets deprioritized. They think outbound doesn't work, but this isn't random. It's the same point, same structural regions every single time. So when you look at these stats, what's actually happening in months 2 and 3? So when you first build your infrastructure, it's fresh, it's new, and it starts performing very well. And now over time, you're sending these long email sequences, your inboxes are trained to therefore go into the spam or not get responses because you're consistently emailing people who are not responding. That over time will there, when you get into month 2 and 3, result in worse results. So the list quality drops over time as well because you're not maintaining that list and it gets out of date over the next 30, 60, 90 days because someone's left the company and therefore your bounce rates are going up, therefore your infrastructure is being impacted. Follow-ups multiply, so you end up following up with people 6, 7, 8 times because you don't have the list in order to go after people because you didn't start by building this out properly and marketing and mapping your full TAM. And then copy stops getting refreshed, so you start sending the same emails over and over and over, therefore your copy gets fingerprinted, which therefore means you need to just change a couple of words and that will start going back into the inbox again. So your A/B testing stops because people stop seeing the calls being booked and therefore everyone loses motivation as a result. Now, the result of all of this, deliverability degrades, reply rates drop, confidence drops, it looks like outbound is failing and it's a systems failure rather than an execution failure. So real numbers from a client portfolio. In month 1, it's normally about 15 to 20 meetings, then we go up to 25 to 35 and then 30 to 40. And how do we do that? And why does no one else get these same compounding results? We're monitoring everything on a monthly basis, so we're always better than the month before. And also, as I said, we're starting with 10 angles that we're testing from. Now we might find 3 winners. When we're sending 3 winners in month 2, we know that every single email that we're sending is already based on something that's worked before. So we're no longer guessing around what works, we're using all of the data that we've had from the previous emails to say, okay, this is what's driving performance. That's what consistent execution feels like. Infrastructure stays clean, lists keep refreshing, and A/B testing never stops. When we do find those winners, we create new versions of them to find even more winners. After 6 months of campaigns, you know which copy works best in which industry, which pain points are mapped to which decision makers, and which size of the company is really your ICP based on the messaging you're using. This can therefore be used to drive your go-to-market strategy generally, rather than just in cold email. You now have pain points mapped to different industries, different company sizes, and different decision makers that you can start using to post on social media that most people don't have access to. You can't buy that data, and if you were to use ads to get that sort of data, it's going to cost you 10x the cost. So domain reputation compounds when you're getting good results. Market familiarity compounds. A prospect who's seen your name twice over the year books a call when the timing finally signs and they've heard about your offer before and they are now starting to recognize you and they see you in a different channel as well because they've heard of you before. CROs don't plan monthly. Quarterly is how most businesses operate strategically. Outbound should be the same, a 12-month forecast, not a month-to-month gamble. When the system is built correctly and running consistently, the CRO stops thinking about prospecting. Qualified pipeline is just predictable. So that's what 1.5 million emails a month actually teaches you. It's not the copy, it's not the subject lines, it's covering your full market, having a list that's actually clean, keeping your infrastructure high grade, and then staying consistent long enough for the compounding effect to kick in. If you want to see what this looks like for your market specifically, your TAM, your channels, your 45-day cycle, there's a link to book a call in the description. We'll map it out together. No slides, just your numbers. We'll break them all down. And if you want to see these systems in practice, I've got a full breakdown of how we built this for CGS team and added over 500K in pipeline in 6 weeks. Links down below, and I'll see you there.